Okay, two things I wanted to talk about this week. If you're new here, every Wednesday, I'm going to make a video talking about two things I find interesting in the world of gaming. And this week, the first story is about mobile gaming. I know, all right, before you go, I found this interesting because it's like, is the grand experiment over? Can AAA games really succeed on mobile? Well, here's the report I saw. It'll be linked in the description down below. Mobilegamer.biz is reporting under 2,000 people have paid to play Resident Evil 7 on iOS, estimates are saying. So AppMagic estimates suggest that Resident Evil 7, the latest console game to arrive as an iOS exclusive, has attracted under 2,000 paying customers. As reported a couple of weeks ago, big name console ports like Assassin's Creed Mirage, Resident Evil Village, RE4, and Death Stranding have all performed poorly since release. According to AppMagic, the app has been downloaded 83,000 times since it was released on July 2nd. So with that, the real kicker is that AppMagic is estimating that 2,000 people paid for the game. So the way a lot of these games work, it allows you to download essentially what is a demo, you get to play it a little bit and then pay a fee to unlock the full game. And Resident Evil 7 was $20. So I look at this here as, is this it? They gave it their all here. I mean, from places really mostly like Ubisoft and Capcom, like they've ported some of their bigger titles now to iOS specifically, meaning top-end iPhone and iPad devices. Now, as a technology person, as somebody who is just an enthusiast of this stuff, I think that is very cool to have these games running on a tablet. I mean, the new iPad and like iPhone, they're so powerful they can like rip a hole in time and space. Even my Google Pixel, like the amount of power smartphones have now that I personally barely take advantage of and a lot of people don't, is really fascinating. So to have these games really harness that in some ways, or at least in some shape or form, is cool, but I think it's really amounting to, is it worth it, right? You see why the publishers would do this. Mobile gaming is the biggest thing. It's huge. Gaming is still the biggest, generating entertainment form out there, right? But a lot of that is backed up by mobile gaming. It's the whales. It's the free-to-play shit. It's the things that people are buying into, the people playing on their phone on the subway. So it makes sense for AAA game publishers to want to get in on that action. And I think they gave it their best shot, right? With how they would do a free demo because people are used to downloading things and playing them for free on their phones, and then having you pay up if you really want to buy into it. But it seems like people aren't buying. Could you imagine downloading and playing Resident Evil 7 and then all of a sudden it came up for you to pay $20 and you didn't want to continue playing that? Obviously, maybe you didn't have $20 at that moment, but that's crazy. 83,000 times it was downloaded, only 2,000 paying customers estimated. That's wild. To be fair, Resident Evil 7 is an older game, but still, they've tried it with newer games like Resident Evil 4 and stuff like that, so with Mirage, so apparently this isn't really the most successful thing, and it makes me wonder what happens now. Square Enix has been doing things a little bit differently. They've been doing like mobile spins on different games, a variety of different Final Fantasy 15s and Final Fantasy 7s designed for mobile, where they're kind of trying to throw different things at the wall and see what sticks. But it seems like the straight porting a game to mobile just isn't working out, and that's interesting. I didn't totally expect that, but it's almost like, again, like a wake-up call for me, because like I'm in my, and you probably are too, in like our gaming world bubble, right? Like I forget about the mobile game player base. It's hard to really think about what they're thinking about, because I'm just obsessed with like fucking, I don't know, Sim City or whatever's coming out next week. I don't know what's coming out. Star Wars Outlaw soon. I don't know. Or people are still grinding away on Elden Ring, right? So it's like we're very much in our own little world. And so I would think everybody would also want to have access to these incredible games, but just on their phone or their iPad. But I guess not. This is why you see other companies trying to double down on streaming, because there's the other fact that it takes a long time for a lot of people to download Resident Evil onto their iPhone or their iPad. It takes up a lot of space on their phone, which is probably filled with photos and screenshots and dick pics. It seems like console games themselves, just as they exist, still have like some barrier of entry to them, whether it's like the difficulty, the controls, the price, the file size, stuff like that. And so now I'm just looking at this news like, oh, another one. First of all, I didn't even realize they released Resident Evil 7 on mobile, and I'm in the gaming news world, and it just totally flew over my radar, so I can't imagine how much they marketed it, but I'm wondering if this is like going to be the beginning of a downward trend. I feel like we're just going to see companies continue to double down into cloud streaming and stuff like that, those types of experience, whether like you're just streaming an individual game, which we have seen. I think we've seen it on Switch as well. some games being streamed to Switch because it's not powerful enough. Also, of course, like the services, like the Xbox cloud streaming and stuff like that. And I've been candid about this before. I don't like streaming stuff. I like having the actual physical real game downloaded and I play that because I've just never had great internet connections. But I feel like I looked at this stuff with these big games being ported to mobile and thinking that was the future, like it was inevitable. That's the direction the technology would go. But it seems like I was totally wrong and it's going a completely different way. So I thought this was interesting to talk about, but also I guess now it's just been a roundabout conversation where the conclusion is don't listen to me. I don't know anything. But speaking of don't listen to me, I don't know anything, I do want to talk about Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. This is a game I reviewed for Game Ranks. The Before You Buy video is up now. I played this quite a bit and it releases later in the week and it's interesting. It is a kind of AA, AAA, like middle tier game, kind of like an Evil West or a Banisher's Ghost of New Eden or a Vampire or even like an Atlas Fallen. It's a flawed game. It's got a generic title. It's got a bit of a generic story and vibe to it, but I generally was really hooked on playing it. It scratched that like gamer lizard brain itch. I think it was really the design of the levels, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself a little bit from that video, but like the design of the levels and the way everything is structured and how there's a lot of nooks and crannies and verticalities. So it just kind of, for me, was very enticing to explore and find more stuff because I wanted to level up because it had a really solid, like very traditional action RPG skill tree where you just buy new abilities that really change up how you play and just how the game feels. I was hooked on that stuff. The main character, I already forgot her name. The world, I forgot what the world was called, but it had cool boss battles. I killed a lot of zombies and like weird wizard knights, and there's guns. You can finish it in well under 20 hours unless you're trying to complete everything, like all the side quests and stuff. And I did find myself going for a lot of those side quests and finding all the little optional enemy encounters and loot and stuff just because I liked the stuff I found in the game. Basically, everything about the loop really clicked, really worked for me. It felt well put together. Even though the level design and like, because it's like semi-open, but it's kind of like big hub areas, kind of like everything all connected. Even though that's all messy and the combat's even a little bit messy, I just found myself really satisfied by every little new weapon I got or cool parry or like weird zombie I fought, and then picking up a cool gauntlet that gave me additional weapon charges or finding a helmet that debuffed something. Like that stuff just really worked very well in this game. It's loosely structured like a Souls-like with like Estus flasks, getting your souls back if you die, resting at bonfires, but it really kind of plays a little bit like a God of War where you could also just fire a gun as an interrupt. It's very hacky, slashy, a little bit of juggling, but just a lot of axe swinging and gun firing. It's not something I would say like you need to go out and play right now because it does have a lot of flaws, and if you want to check out like more of that, I'll link the other video I did down in the description. But like when it drops on Steam, it's going to be like $36. It's also on Game Pass, so it's like a mid-tier game, but it's also not full price. It's also not going to like take you 200 hours. It's from the people who made Ashen, by the way. I kind of buried the lead on that, but it's something I would say like, yeah, if you are like me and you do play these weird games like an Ashen, like an Evil West, even if you tried Atlas Fallen, you know, if you're interested in diving into those little bit smaller experiences, those games that aren't just Grand Theft Auto 5 or The Witcher 3, then yeah, check it out at some point. But it reminded me of that video that the homie Nakey Jakey made in defense of the 7 out of 10 games. It's a great video. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. He doesn't need a shout out from me by any means, but yeah, that is a thing. This is definitely 100% like a 7 out of 10 game, maybe a 6 out of 10 game, maybe an 8 out of 10 game, depending on who you are, what your preferences are, what your tolerance level is for some of the annoyances, some of the bullshit, you know, some weird lock-on stuff, the repetitiveness of it, some of the forgettable aspects. But this one just hit also at the right time. I think a 7 out of 10 game can be a thing, but also I think a 7 out of 10 game is more powerful when it hits at the right time, dude. Like the Mad Max game. I don't know. When I played that, I knew it was like a little repetitive and it wasn't a perfect game, but like it was just right place, right time, scratched a perfect itch, the vibe was perfect. fell in love with the game. I'm not in love with Flintlock Siege of Dawn by any means, but like I've been thinking about these types of games, this 7 out of 10 game. I almost think it almost has meaning beyond an actual review score. It's just like there's a feel associated, like a cultural like feel. Like if you're a gamer, you read game reviews, at this point, like you hear 7 out of 10, you kind of almost understand what the game really is. I just wanted to yap about that. Again, not telling you to go out and play Flintlock right this moment or anything, but it's always good to stop and take stock of these types of games. Because these are the weird ones where every once in a while, you'll see them do something a little bit different. Try something a little bit weird. Maybe even stumble and fall flat on their face. But then later on, you'll see a big game use a lot of those concepts or ideas, or even take some of them to the next level, really evolve things. I don't know. This is the test bed usually for some interesting weird games or good hybrids and mashups. So those are 2 things I found interesting this week. That's what I'm doing. Like I said, again, every Wednesday, I'll be talking about 2 things. Wanted to talk about news a little bit more, but not always just negative headlines because everything is always bad. I'm trying to balancing it also just with some good stuff. Also, got a bonus thing for you. Now I can throw in my weird shit at the end. Terminator Zero. This is the Terminator Netflix anime. Yes, that is a thing. Judging by the view count online for the trailer, doesn't seem like a lot of people know about this, but I have been looking forward to this for a while now. The trailer looks good as hell. You guys know I'm not like the biggest anime person, but I dabble. And I just look at Netflix and what they've done with some of this stuff. I really love the Castlevania series. I really like the Cyberpunk Edge Runner series. I've talked about that before. This seems like they're trying to do that again. They're trying to strike that gold. And Terminator, in my opinion, is absolutely ripe for the pickings, dude, because there hasn't really been a good Terminator movie since the second one. I am actually a Terminator Salvation defender. We'll save that for another video, but I just love the Terminator franchise. Really, Terminator 1 and 2. The Terminator 2 video I made on this channel is one of my favorite videos I've ever made. I love these things. They're perfect. They're great. But, you know, people keep trying. Different people come around and they try and crack that Terminator code, and it always falls flat on its face. So I think animation is really an interesting medium for them to give it a shot. They're doing something a little bit different. Number one, it's not centered around like Sarah Connor lore or anything like that. No Kyle Reese, no Sarah Connor, no Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that already is unique. I mean, the series has kind of been hamstrung by that. It's always kind of been chained down to that, for better or for worse. This is completely different. And the creators behind it have really kind of doubled down on the fact that they have been focused on creating that original Terminator feel. The original Terminator movie is a horror movie. It is a slasher film, and it is so effective. And to see this trailer actually seem like it's cashing some of the checks that they've been writing, where they're saying they're going to try and keep it scary, keep the tension. The trailer is unsettling. The T-800s look weird. They look creepy. And I hope they're onto something here. We'll know for sure. Hopefully I like it. Maybe I'll talk about it in another thing. It's releasing August 29th, so we don't have to wait too much longer. Fun fact, that's actually the original date. It changes, of course, because of time travel, but that was like the original Judgment Day date. So that's cute, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of Judgment Day, I gotta get out of here. If you like this, if you get what I'm trying to do here, I'm talking about stuff I love. Why am I doing that? Clicking the like button does help. Thank you. But I'll see you in other videos here. But catch me on Wednesday if you just want these quick 2 things. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.